Versus Saxton Hale and Free Fortress 2 are popular Team Fortress 2 mod game modes. They use Arena, King of the Hill, and custom-made maps and require a plugin to play. The original Versus Saxton Hale plugin was released January 2011. Free Fortress 2 came from Versus Saxton Hale. Its original plugin came out April 2012. Today, there are roughly 90 servers running these mod game modes, either full or part-time. So what is Versus Saxton Hale? Versus Saxton Hale is a game mode about fighting Saxton Hale, a fictional CEO of Manco, a super powerful and manly character in Team Fortress 2 lore, and his associates. In Versus Saxton Hale, every round starts the same. One player is selected from a point queue to play as the boss, and everyone else is moved to the other team to try and defeat them. Rounds are one life only. The bosses in Versus Saxton Hale vary from server to server. For the most part, all have unique gameplay styles and special moves. Normally, the bosses are restricted to melee only. However, they can usually kill non-overhealed players in a single hit. They can also deal damage by landing on players. Bosses have enormous health pools. Their health depends on the number of players on the server, meaning that the game mode can more or less accommodate any number of players and still be balanced. As stated before, bosses have special moves. Most bosses have a rage mechanic. By taking damage, a rage meter fills. Once filled, the player playing the boss can use their taunt key and activate a special effect. Normally, the effect is to stun nearby enemies and sentry guns, however, it could be anything. Bosses can perform super jumps. By crouching and letting go, bosses can fling themselves up into the air. This move is ideal for escaping death pits that can be found on some maps. Bosses have a way down move. Basically, if they're suspended in the air for too long from constantly being knocked back, they can hold down the crouch key to crash back down to the earth. The last noteworthy thing about bosses is that they run really fast and slightly increase in speed as they take damage. At a certain time in a round, the control point on the map will activate. This event is usually triggered by only having a few remaining mercenaries left. The reason this event happens is to speed up rounds. Bosses can try and cap the control point to force players out of hiding and prolonging rounds. Rounds in Versus Saxton Hale can last long, and since they are one life only, players can spend a long time simply spectating the action. Versus Saxton Hale is a mod in semi-constant development. The main thing between updates that differs between servers is weapon balance. Weapons are heavily modified in Versus Saxton Hale. Some barely resemble their original weapons in terms of stats. Basically, over the years, community feedback has shaped the weapons repeatedly and continues to do so. New players may find it challenging to learn all the obscure changes. Since most bosses are melee only and have to get close to kill players, players on the other team have a 100% crit chance on their melee weapons. This is to encourage players to use their melee as sort of a high-risk, high-reward situation. Some mechanics that are often found in Versus Saxton Hale stem from other mods that are commonly used alongside the Versus Saxton Hale plugin. For example, the Goomba Stomp mechanic, the amplifier, taunt crits, and the damage indicators that show how much damage a player inflicted on the boss at the end of the round. These are all different mods. Another popular plugin is class restrictions. Sometimes too many of a single class can be overpowered. This plugin allows server operators to balance the game mode further. So what is Free Fortress 2 then? Free Fortress 2 marks a point in Versus Saxton Hale's lifespan where it's split into two. Over time, more and more bosses across many servers were added to Versus Saxton Hale. Eventually, the mode became more about fighting non-canon characters in TF2's bizarre fan consciousness and internet meme characters than actually fighting Saxton Hale. Free Fortress 2 is basically the same thing as Versus Saxton Hale. The main key differences are the greater emphasis on custom bosses and the code reworking that allows for custom bosses to be made and implemented more easily. Freak Fortress 2 also starts off with a greater roster of pre-made bosses. Deathrun is also a mode that came from vs. Saxton Hale. In short, it's a sort of mini-game of vs. Saxton Hale, where the boss attempts to trigger traps in an obstacle course in order to kill the other team. And that's basically vs. Saxton Hale / Freak Fortress 2 in a nutshell. A game mode about fighting a super powerful boss. An underdog story, pitting killer mercenaries against their employer, or a vengeful ghost, or a pony. Thanks for watching. Like, fave, and subscribe. Saxton Hale!
Attention! 2 minutes left in the mission. 2 minutes left in the mission.
Do your stuff.